guys, here we are. It's another Thursday, which means another day of mobility. Now, this can also set you up for another workout. You'll get that body loosened up and you'll be moving pretty smooth. So today what you're going to need is a little block. Well, I'm going to use a block. You can use a roll of tissue, you can use a cushion, anything like that with a bit of firmness but also has that bit of give in it. We will be coming to, we only need it for one exercise. Well, you can use it for two, but we're mostly going to use it for one. So we're going to start by standing up nice and tall. We're going to 10 seconds, so a bit of time, into the Kang squat to start. So we're starting with our hips, work our way up to our upper back, and then we'll go through it round two. So feet just over shoulder width apart. You can grab underneath your toes. If you can't grab underneath your toes, grab your ankles, grab your shins. It doesn't really matter. We're going to squat down nice and deep, elbows inside the knees, and then we're going to kick our bum back up in the air, keeping hold of the ankle, the toes, or the shins. And then we're going to squat down again, holding each position for about 3 seconds before we move into the next one. So as you stand up, you're kicking that bum back, also pushing the knees back. You feel a stretch in the calf, the hamstring in the back. But when you squat down, drive the elbows out, so now you feel your thighs, your adductors. Those are stretching right there. So 2, 1. The depth doesn't really matter. It's all based off what you can do. So now we're going to go onto our 2 knees. One leg out in front, keep it bent. Put the hands down inside the legs. So have the foot on the outside. You can adjust the hands from here. So we're going to rock forward with our hips as if we're trying to scoop our hips up to the sky. So you're going to feel that hip flexion, the front of that hip of the back leg, and then the groin of that front leg. And then we're slowly going to rock back onto our heel. You can walk the hands back and sitting back onto our heel, keeping this front leg straight now. So now we're stretching the hamstring. And then let's walk it forward again. And you're going to keep on swapping between the two. Then once this 14 seconds is done, we're going to swap to the other side and do the exact same thing again. But if you're having trouble sitting back on it, you can readjust that back leg and kick it back a little bit further. So you don't have to sit back as much, but you're still getting that stretch in that front leg. So rest there. Let's set up the other side. So 2 knees, kneeling nice and high, left foot out to the side and in front, 2 hands down. And let's rock forward. You're walking forward with the hands, scoop those hips up to the sky. And you can also squeeze that glute of that back leg. Because as we know at this stage, our hip flexor and our glute, both different sides of our hip, they both work in tandem. So if your hip flexor stretches, well, that means our glute has to contract. They both can't stretch at the same time. And we're going to rock it back. I nearly forgot to rock back on that one. And I'm sitting back, I'm pointing that toe away, trying to stretch that hamstring. And then let's walk forward a little bit more. So I'm going to slowly turn in for about 4 seconds onto my hands and knees. Have your knees nice and wide. We're going into the tactical frog stretch, but we're going to do a bit of a twist here. So knees nice and wide. Feet, keep that 90-degree angle at the back of the knees. Onto my elbows, I'm going to rock forward with 1 foot and back down. So it's like I'm trying to bring my foot up in front of me. Keeping the knee down, I'm just internally rotating that leg. So lifting that foot up and trying to get to the front wall. It's the wall at the top of your head. Now, do make sure you do have a mat or something underneath that knee. But the trick with this one is try not to rotate, same with anything that we do. Try not to move the body or shift the body as you pick that foot up and rotate it. Keep it where it is. Keep the abs nice and tight if you have to, just to give yourself that stable platform. So 2 more seconds, and then you can come up out of that one. But we're going to stay relatively close to that stretch, because we have to do the other side now. So going in 3 seconds, get the knees nice and wide, onto the elbows to make it a little bit more intense, and bring that foot up and back down. Nice and slow. So about 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down. It's that slow. And then we're going to go back onto our back. This is where the block of the tissue, that cushion comes in. We're lying on our back. We're going to throw it in between our 2 knees, staying with our internal rotation at the hip. So we're hitting that heavy today. So you will feel a stretch in the groin here as well as we hold this position and come up out of that. Grab your block or your cushion, whatever you're using, doesn't matter what prop it is. You're lying onto your back, you're going to put the block in between your 2 knees, push the lower back down, make that 90 degree at the front of the hip, the back of the knees, pressure in to the block, and then bring your feet outwards as much as you can, and then bring it back in. Now this is one where you might feel those hips cramp up and give out a little bit. If so, just close those legs again, bring the feet together, give it a second, and then go back at it. So the first round that we do all these exercises, as usual, they're gonna be a bit slower. We're not gonna be getting the timing straight away because we do have to explain it. But when we get through the second round, you get a lot more work done. So another 4 seconds to go. Then we're onto our hands and knees again. And relax there. So put the block to one side. We're gonna move to that T-spine. So I'm gonna turn slightly at a slant. I'm gonna drop to my elbows. So hands or knees and elbows. Hand behind the head, and I'm gonna rotate, open up as much as we can, and then back down. So now we're looking at T-spine. So open up as much as you can. Now you'll notice that you won't get as much rotation as usual in this one. That's because we're limiting it and we're close to the ground, so everything's a little bit harder. Whereas if you went up into your hands and you tried it from there, well, you'd open up a lot more. But we're looking to restrict that, make it a lot tougher for ourselves. Another 2 seconds. Come up out of that, give yourself a bit of rest. We've got 7 seconds before we go back into that on the other side. So 2, 1, let's go. So nice and slow. Feel those shoulder blades coming together. And you're going to feel up or back as well. That's the area that we're looking to hit. And also staying on our elbows will actually keep us in that position. So there's not much room for us to make mistakes and get into positions we shouldn't, or start compensating with other body parts. 3 seconds. And relax there. We're staying on our hands and knees, so come up onto your hands. We're going to look at the spine as one now. So we're going into our cat camels. So from there, hands and knees, nice and slow, big breath in. You're going to start rounding your back as much as you can. Then on the exhale, nice and slow, get that breathing under control. We're going to start arching that back, so we're bringing our belly button down towards the ground, tilting our pelvis the other way. And then a big breath in again and try and round it. So there is a slight difference between rounding and arching. So try to get those mixed up. So you're also tilting the pelvis too. So it's not just the spine as such. The spine and the pelvis move together. There are 2 seconds and relax there. Right, so we're going to stand back up on our feet into the Kang squat again. Now we know what we're doing. And now you know what level you're at for each one. So I'm going to grab underneath my toes. I'll turn slightly side on. I'm going to squat down, elbows inside the knees. That's the most important, is elbows inside the knees. It doesn't matter where you anchor. We just want the elbows inside the knees. And you're going to hold that anchor for that 40 seconds. Everything is nice and slow. So you kick the bum up, push the knees back. Doesn't matter how deep you get with this either. Even if you only get halfway, that's absolutely fine. Stick with it. You get more range of motion as time goes on. So we're back into our 2 knees on the ground in 2 seconds. And let's go. Drop down onto our 2 knees. We're going to throw our left foot out in front, out to the side slightly, and then put our 2 hands on the ground. And let's go. Rock those hips forward. You can walk the hands forward. Remember, you're squeezing that back leg, that glute to the back leg. And then we're going to walk the hands back. Adjust that back leg if you have to. If you can't sit all the way down, point that toe away with the front leg. And then let's walk forward again. You're scooping those hips up to the sky in front. And then let's go back. So we're only holding for about 4 seconds or so on each one. We're keeping it quite dynamic. So not too much static stretching today. 3, 2, 1. Let's swap it over. And the sun comes straight into my eyes. So let's set up again on the other side. Right foot out to the side. 2 hands down the ground. And let's scoop those hips up to the sky. And then rock it back. So you can adjust this as you move. So you're not stuck in that same position for it all. You can move the legs to make it a little bit easier for one half of the stretch and then readjust it again for the other side. Another 15 seconds or so. Walking the hands forward. 2, 1. And let's onto our hands and knees. Make sure our knees are nice and wide. So really spread them here. I'm going to drop down to my elbows to make this more intense so you can stay up on your hands to make it a little easier. I'm going to bring this foot up in front and bring it back down. And you'll notice that we're actually internally rotating this femur here as it goes into the hip. Although we're bringing our foot out to the side, it's normally the opposite of that. So when we bring our foot out to the side, the opposite is the internal rotation. You might think it's external because that foot's going out, it's going externally. But not the case here. So really fight for that extra inch or that centimeter. So 2, 1, swap it up. I'm just going to come up out of that stretch for a second. And I'll get back into it now. So going on 2, 1. The knees are getting a little bit tired in this position. Feeling the pressure. So holding that body still. It's just that leg that's moving. All right, 16 seconds. Then we're back onto our back. This is where you grab the cushion or the tissue or even a yoga block if you have it. So 3, 2, 1. Onto our back. I'm really starting to feel those hips now, and that's going to translate into this next one. That's why your hips are going to be quite tired. So blocking between the knees, push the lower back down. That's going to turn the abs on. And as push in with the knees, you're going to feel your adductors here. And let's drive out with the feet. Keeping that pressure on the block so it doesn't fall. And then bring it back in. So you're going to feel the front of those hips as we internally rotate at the hips. Although our feet are going out, we're still internally rotating. So you might notice one side goes further out than the other. That's all right. That's going to happen. So we're back onto our elbows and knees after this in 2, 1. Get rid of that block. Nice and quick transition. So elbows and knees. Hand behind the head. And let's go. Let's rotate. Open up with the elbow and back down. Now I am limiting my right side mobility here as there's a shoulder injury at the moment. But that won't stop you. So if you do see a big difference on my screen, now you know why. But I couldn't completely take out the upper back mobility out. We can't neglect that. So I'll power through. Just open up as much as you can, keeping the other elbow down. Don't let it pop up. And rest there. Right, let's swap it over. So you got another 6 seconds before we go again. But setting up, so as soon as that clock hits 0, we go. So 2, 1. Let's start moving. So open up as much as you can. Your eyes always stay locked onto your elbow. And you don't rotate through the hips. And our knees on the ground will keep us in that position. And then we have our cat camels to finish. And I'll bring in another level of cat camels. If you find that quite easy, we're going to split up the back between thoracic and lumbar spine. So upper and lower. So 4 seconds. And rest. Right, onto our hands and knees. First level of cat camels is just your whole spine moving together as one. Second level, only if you're really comfortable with it, is keep the upper back up to the sky and tilt the pelvis. So let's go. So pick what level you're at. I want you to keep the upper back to the sky and you're tilting at the pelvis so that lower back is arching and rounding. But the upper back is going to stay the exact same. It's not going to move. Now it is quite difficult, so be honest with yourself. If you can't do it, regress back down to that full cat camel. You're still going to get huge benefits from that. And the better control we have to the spine, the better we can move. So 3, 2, 1, and relax there. So that is the lot of today's mobility session. So if you are feeling like you want to do a workout now, by all means go for it. So for all of you that have seen all these, and hopefully you've learned something from it, keep it going, keep that consistency going. And yeah, the more you do it, the better you're going to feel. So really take this on board, guys, and try to get as much work as you can done. So good work, and we'll see you next time.